Hey guys, this is Pablo with Meditation Amsterdam, and today I want to share some thoughts about the metacrisis and what I believe is the only way out of it. In case you have not heard about the term the metacrisis or is still a little bit vague, my best understanding of it is that the metacrisis is the global and human situation in which we find ourselves today, with problems that reinforce each other on a very grand scale around geopolitics, around social unrest, around the crisis on the mental health at an individual level, and also, of course, the crisis around the environment and the natural environment in which we live. So there's people out there that are extremely worried about this, and I think that we also can feel in our bones, at least in conversations that I have here in Europe, that things are not looking very well, and they only seem to be getting faster, more complicated, and worse as time goes by. And there is nothing that seems to promise a pivoting away from what's going on here. So we're in a very worrying situation. The Doomsday clock has been advanced a few seconds forward just this week. And the conversations that I have seen out there to try to solve this range from the technocratic, such as Elon Musk creating rockets for colonizing Mars, because the essential message there to me is that the Earth is a write-off, to the philosophical, with people using terms like tableauing and swarming and enigmatics to somehow, get around and tackle all kinds of convoluted ways to do this. And there is a kind of message that has always been out there, but it has always been drowned by louder, bigger voices on how to resolve what was foreseen by the ancient yogis as the inevitable demise of our culture in what they call the Kali Yuga, the age of where everything becomes one big bloody mess, right? And that is that, as insipid and small as it sounds in the context of something as big as the metacrisis, it is the cultivation of the human mind and the healing of the human heart that holds the key to disentangle this Gordian knot in which we find ourselves. Unfortunately, because that kind of work of cultivation has not been done by most of the prominent thinkers and people in places of political, social, economic, and cultural power, their thinking is polluted by what you could call isms. In other words, ways of thinking that come from the prevalence of the thinking mind in its limited way of perceiving reality to come up with the solution to things. This makes it so that the solutions that we are looking for are solutions that need to be sort of framed, clear-cut, somewhat permanent in their tenets, and big. They need to be big because the metacrisis is big, right? So to come up with something as small as heal the human heart, and I say small almost tongue-in-cheek because it's not a small thing. Even for one individual to do that is it's a humongous task. But in the face of a problem like the metacrisis, it just sounds like it's completely unrelated, right? It's not very relevant. And this is completely in line with the way that we have approached the crisis that we are going through as individuals in these times, in which there is, of course, an epidemic of mental health diseases and the autoimmune and other kind of nasty conditions that arise from them. And it is that we as individuals also try to solve our individual problems with isms, right? So we adopt religionism, we adopt, if that doesn't work, we adopt materialism, logical materialism, right? And when that gets too old and we have completely filled our lives with concepts, then we say, oh no, we need to simplify our lives. So we adopt minimalism, that'll do it. And then everything feels too empty. So now we feel empty, and then we adopt spiritualism. And notice that I don't say spirituality, because spiritualism is the mind's idea of what spirituality is, right? So we start to act and talk in certain ways that are spiritual, right? All that kind of stuff. And when spiritualism doesn't do it and we're completely out of ideas, then we become nihilists. So now it's nihilism, right? I don't believe in anything. Everything is fine, kind of, although not really. And so we go through our lives trying to adopt these isms as solutions to the metacrisis that we feel within. And all the while, the hard work of looking within, cultivating our minds, and individuating and healing our heart it never enters into the picture. And when enough individuals, and now we are quite a few billion, suffer from that kind of fragmentation inside, it inevitably results in tremendous crisis on a mega and meta level on the outside. There is no other way around it. We are completely broken within. And this has a consequence. When a big enough mass of individuals engages in the work of self-cultivation and self-realization and the healing of the human heart, the kind of decisions that those individuals en masse will make are very, very different. They look very different. And they don't need to subscribe to an ism. So I don't need to, for example, subscribe to minimalism. I can simply discern if a certain good or service is really necessary for me to buy or not, even if I have the means to do so. I was recently in a country, and I'm not going to say where it is fashionable to get the biggest, most expensive SUV that you can buy, whether you need it or not. And 99% of the time, I'm pretty certain you don't really need it, but you get it anyway. And that's not a healthy mind that does that, right? That's a mind that is diseased. So if we have masses of individuals that are making a different kind of decision, even if the government or taxes or programs are not pushing you to act more wholesomely, you simply do so because that's what you've become. You've become a harmonized individual, and a flexible one too. So harmony and flexibility are, of course, almost two sides of the same coin. In order to be in constant harmony, you need to be flexible about how you approach things, what frame you use to tackle them, being able to change your mind even you had committed to a certain course of action if the circumstances are different, and so on. That is very, very far away from the kind of behavior that we as humanity display today. We are entrenched in egoic patterns of activity, and we just can't break away from them. It doesn't matter what kind of solutions you impose on a metacrisis that suffers from that level of cyclic granularity inside. And it is the granularity that matters when it comes to metacrisis. To learn how to think in terms of the atomic and the granular, to learn to think the way nature thinks, if we can call it thinking, is to learn to tackle big things by addressing small things that really, really matter. And I believe that as hopeless as that might sound, that as per the ancient yogis also prediction, the metacrisis, just like every other crisis or circumstance, carries within it the kernel or the seed of its undoing, because it places the egoic mind in an ever less sustainable state of affairs. People are either breaking apart or they are breaking through in such circumstances as we have today. And the circumstances will only force us into a more binary choice when it comes to those two things. So there is a great opportunity here, and we shall see which way this goes. It is by no means decided, and I believe that each of our voices and our efforts really do matter in this, but that we don't need to necessarily become activists of some sort of political, economic, or social program to solve the metacrisis, although we can, but that our primary task is really to cultivate our mind and heal our heart. That the work to be done is a work at the level of every individual, taking full responsibility for oneself, and deciding that whatever level we're at is not going to be sustainable, and that we will pay a very heavy toll for that, both collectively and also individually. So that's my take on this. It's not necessarily a new take. In fact, is far from it. But I thought it would be interesting to place it in the context of the metacrisis, because I, for one, can feel in my bones that things are every day and every week becoming more and more uncertain and strange. And whilst Europe and certainly Amsterdam is a beautiful little bubble of well-being, safety, and cultural development and the rest of it, it feels to me like we've been faking it for some time, especially after COVID, in the sense of ignoring the brewing problems that are growing ever near to us in terms of violence and social unrest, and also climate change, right? So I share it for whatever it's worth, and I am curious to hear what you guys make of this one. So do leave your thoughts in the comment section, and also if you think that these kind of talks are worth liking, sharing, and subscribing, then do so. It's highly appreciated, really motivating, and I'll be back with more videos pretty soon. Cheerio, and bye-bye.